Keeps them alive for 3 days. Then he shoots them, skins them, and dumps them.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
The first horror film to ever win the Academy Award for Best Picture, The Silence of the Lambs, is regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. Starring Jodie Foster as FBI rookie Clarice Starling, the film follows her pursuit in tracking down a serial killer known only as Buffalo Bill, who has captured his next victim. She seeks out the advice of incarcerated psychiatrist and cannibalistic killer Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, whose insights are essential in helping Clarice track down Bill before time runs out. Both Foster's and Hopkins' performances have lived on in pop culture since the film's debut in 1991, in large part due to the unique relationship that develops between them and how it mirrors the unpredictable nature of the film itself. Who is in control here? Who truly has the power? These are questions that editor Craig McKay leaves us asking, and today we'll be exploring a scene in the film's climax through the lens of Bordwell and Thompson's dimensions of editing theory, to analyze how McKay is able to heighten audience engagement by manipulating space and rhythmic relations between shots. Editing, as defined by Bordwell and Thompson, is the task of selecting and joining camera takes, or in the finished film, the set of techniques that govern the relationship among shots. We can see this on full display in this pivotal scene in Silence of the Lambs, where the FBI are surrounding the premises of Buffalo Bill's house, just as the serial killer is trying to convince his captive, Catherine Martin, to release his dog after she captures him to bargain her freedom. As the scene plays out and the FBI draw closer in, it's revealed that we've actually been watching two scenes play out simultaneously after the second ring of a doorbell distinguishes the two locations, and we see Bill answer the door to Clarice Starling as the FBI raid an abandoned house. Playing with audience expectations here through parallel editing allows the filmmakers to introduce the antagonist's weaknesses while at the same time reaffirming his strengths and the danger Clarice is now in. Bordwell and Thompson give 4 dimensions of editing, and today we're going to take a look at rhythmic and spatial relations, beginning with rhythm. Rhythm, in editing as defined by Bordwell and Thompson's 4 dimensions, relates to the relationship between shots and how that relationship controls a film's pace and can evoke a response from the audience. Rhythm in this scene from The Silence of the Lambs is applied to demonstrate shifts in control and intensity between characters. As the scene opens, Buffalo Bill is depicted as a god, tearing apart moths. He is completely in control and the editing reflects this. There are slow-paced cuts between very tactile shots until we hear the screech of Bill's dog. As Buffalo Bill's curiosity builds, so does the audience's, and once we realize that the captive has control of his dog, Bill descends. For the first time in the film, he has lost control. The pace of cuts intensify, which reflect the loss of Bill's control. This all relates back to the rhythm of the scene and how it is used to evoke an emotional response from the audience. While this is happening, the FBI are supposedly setting up their raid outside the house. Their setup is quiet and brooding. McKay cuts the FBI in such a way that it conveys the fact that in that moment they believe they are in control. This control dynamic is conveyed through the use of subtle smash cuts between the silent peacefulness outside the house and the violent horrific freakout taking place inside. McKay's editing here presents the construction of the FBI's control and the spiraling nature of Buffalo Bill's control. The use of smash cuts here once again relate to the rhythmic relationship Bordwell and Thompson detail. Perhaps the moment where this relationship is at the forefront of the scene would be the ringing of the doorbell itself. From the outside, the FBI rings this doorbell and the atmosphere is silent yet quietly brooding. From the inside, The doorbell is this distorted and violently loud sound that discombobulates both the viewer and Buffalo Bill. This acts as both a match and smash cut, which McKay implements brilliantly to explore the control dynamic between the FBI and Buffalo Bill. The distorted sound further fuels Bill's control descending and his freak-out intensifying, and the sound itself is the most obvious exploration of the rhythmic relationship in the scene's editing.
Through the contrast of two images, space is suggested by 2 points being together. By intersecting imagery and audio, an audience can assume spatial coexistence. Just over 2 minutes into the scene, this coexistence is confirmed to be a manipulation. A match cut shows us that it's Clarice who's been ringing Bill's doorbell all along, and a smash cut quickly follows to show the FBI raiding a completely abandoned house. The production design, lighting, and in particular cinematography all work in unison here to sell the belief that these two scenes are taking place in the exact same location. In making this choice, McKay not only embodies the tonal and emotional elements of the film, but he tightens our engagement by building tension in the realization that Clarice is the only person who will be able to save herself. The key ingredient to making this hit home for the audience is FBI agent Jack Crawford's reaction at the end of the scene, a pivotal moment that not even McKay realized the first time approaching it. At first he was confused and chose to edit the cuts in a linear fashion until Demi gave him the idea of parallel editing, a choice that took 3 days to achieve. However, something still didn't feel right for him.
At the end of 3 days, I'm sitting there and I've almost got it working and it's not working. And I don't know what to do, and I look up, and across the room in one of the film bins is a piece of film. This sounds unbelievable, but I went over and I looked at that piece of film, and it was a shot of Crawford that I needed to make the whole thing work.
There's no one here, Jack. Clarice.
McKay is directly transporting us into the scene by having it end with the extreme close-up of Crawford's face as he calls out Clarice. This not only serves as Jack's realization of Clarice's danger, but also the film's closing argument about its protagonist in that Clarice was right. The Silence of the Lambs is a film about many things. Trauma, grief, the evils that man is capable of, but the overarching theme that transcends throughout is the belief in the underdog. From the first moment Clarice appears on screen, she has encountered both physical and emotional obstacles that deem her inferior of being an agent. Whether it's because she's a rookie, a woman, lower class, or a combination of all three, so many people don't show her respect because they just don't view her as worthy. Time and time again, she's been left to go her own way and discover the light, not only in the case, but also her own identity. The success of this scene is dependent on editor Craig McKay manipulating space and playing with the rhythm of these cuts to create a suspenseful cinematic experience that builds engagement before the film's climax. This is why Bulwell and Thompson's theory is ideal when analysing this scene, because the approaching of the cuts from a technical, practical, and plausible viewpoint is precisely why McKay is able to encapsulate the core elements to create a satisfying conclusion to these characters, keeping us all on the edge of our seat right until the final moments of the film.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.